Cover One, the Draft Podcast. Welcome to it. I'm Russell Brown, and with me down in Mobile, Alabama at the Senior Bowl, I am incredibly envious of my partner in crime, CP Christian Page. My man, how we doing?
Man, I'm doing good. It's definitely a different experience here, not being with you and some of the other people across the NFL draft landscape, but definitely enjoying my time so far, but still a lot more work to do.
Yeah, and I mean, it's the first day. Yesterday, I guess you could say, was technically the first day, but really, I don't think anything happens on Monday. It's more so just walking around, getting kind of your feet on the ground, getting your footing, and preparing for probably a night out at Veets. But I'm sure that was not the case last night for you as you traveled in, I think, last night or this morning. But you're there today. You saw some of practice, so we will get into what you saw from practice. We will talk about the Senior Bowl as far as the national team and the American team. If you're looking for some written content on it as far as the top players, a better summary of it all, CP's got you covered over at cover1.net. He has got a brand new piece out from this morning, or maybe it was yesterday, I believe. But either way, the top players on both rosters for the Senior Bowl. A ton of great information there. And then on Monday, I dropped my 2021 first top 50 big board, so you can check that out as well. We'll talk about the big board next week, and CP can pick me apart however he'd choose on that. But Senior Bowl stuff all week long, that's what we're doing. And I'll probably talk to CP more than once this week, that's for sure. Probably a little bit tomorrow, maybe the third day, and we'll just kind of go from there. But today, the big day on Tuesday is always about the weigh-ins in the morning, and that's what filled up your Twitter timeline today was the Senior Bowl Twitter page, which is, I believe, just at Senior Bowl on Twitter, at Senior Bowl on Twitter. They put out all of their stuff as far as the weights, the heights, the wingspan, everything on every single player that is out there. So let's just dive in. I mean, it's kind of hard to digest because it's picture after picture after picture, which is, it's really cool. I just kind of wish it was like an ongoing thread in a way, if that makes sense. But we won't get to every player. There's 130 plus players. But who were some guys that stood out from what you were reading today?
Yeah, one of the big, more notable guys that stood out for me was Baron Browning, the linebacker out of Ohio State. 6'3", 241 pounds. I think he had over an 80-inch wingspan. And that's incredible for even somebody that's going to play on the outside, be an edge guy and occasionally put your hand in the dirt. But Browning's more of your traditional linebacker. He can run sideline to sideline. And what's impressive with that with those measurements is he carries it so well because he has that upper echelon type speed. He can unlock his hips. He can play in the flats. He can play sideline to sideline. So just seeing those numbers at 6'3", 240 plus, 33-inch arms, and 80-plus wingspan, that is extremely impressive for a linebacker at any level, but especially Browning, just with the style of play he plays with and just the speed that he really likes to showcase.
Yeah, I saw what he did, and I'll say, I mean, as far as what the measurables were, I'm trying to find it again. It's kind of tough to navigate for the exact measurements, but I've already kind of filled in my first mock draft for after the Super Bowl because that's when I always drop my first one, and I'll just give a little spoiler. Baron Browning is in the first round. I'll just go ahead and say that now. It's one of those things. I don't think he's a first round talent per se, but somebody's going to fall in love with him, and I think they're going to fall in love with him at this event. And when you get to just get some of that limited time, because, again, we're in a crazy year, you're going to get him firsthand. You're going to see what's there. You're going to see the tape, which is pretty good. And it's going to be one of those things where I think a team in the back end of the first round that might need a linebacker, Buffalo Bills, if you can't re-sign Matt Milano, and you could look at a Baron Browning. I'm not saying he's Matt Milano, but I could see a team falling in love with him for sure. Another guy that I want to talk about, and it's of course got to be offensive lineman from what I saw at the measurables, was Deontay Brown, 6'3", 364, almost an 81-inch wingspan, almost 33-inch arms. The guy's built like a freaking tank. You saw the picture of him. He looks massive. The tape is good too. I mean, he is just nasty. He gets after it. I love everything that I've seen from him. He could very well be a top 75 pick. He should be. And then the other one from Alabama, and I'm not even going to get into Alex Leatherwood because those measurables are just to me for a left tackle, it's incredible. But the other one for a center, Landon Dickerson, 6'6", 326, an 81-inch wingspan with the leadership and the way that guy, I don't want to say took over the program, but the way that his teammates reacted with him, I mean, just absolutely incredible with him, with great tape and everything else. I mean, Dickerson might have won the entire day. He might have won the last like month and a half in college football.
Yeah, I agree. And really the only thing that's keeping him from maybe being a first round pick would just be that injury history. Because, just recently he tore an ACL, and I think he has a torn ACL on both knees throughout his career. And then when he was at Florida State before he transferred to Alabama, I think he had some like lingering ankle issues as well. So those lower body injuries, those are the biggest question marks. It's a big deal. But as long, like you said, he checks the boxes as far as leadership goes, background goes, and of course, when you're on the playing. So last month, he's made some of the most noise and most headway in NFL draft circles, just given his play and his leadership responsibilities as well.
Yeah, for sure. What was your spin? And I got it before we get into more height and weight guys, since we've been talking about some Alabama guys. What was your take on Devonta Smith declining to weigh in?
It really interesting because it sounds, he got his hand measured, his wingspan, everything like that, but his height and weight, which are two of the bigger questions, not necessarily his height, because I think people expect around 6 foot, maybe slightly under, but of course his weight has always been the biggest question mark. And similar, like we're talking about Dickerson, he's done everything well except, check the boxes as far as injury history goes. Devontae Smith's done everything extremely well this past season. But the biggest concern is from a criteria standpoint, is he going to, weigh more than 175 pounds? But based on his reaction today and probably his agent or somebody saying don't do it, you probably have to think that he's not at that 175 threshold yet. Could he overcome that? Could he put, a lot of those stereotypes or standards to the side? Probably, and he probably will. But there are some teams, some front offices that won't even consider. They'll put it in a spreadsheet, and if this guy doesn't weigh a certain amount or if he doesn't measure to this certain height, they won't even show up on their dashboard. And Devontae Smith may fall victim to some of those teams doing that. So it's definitely really interesting. I don't want to say it's not surprising, but when he made the move of going down to Mobile for the Senior Bowl, when he definitely didn't have to, he's not participating from a physical standpoint, but you had to think at least that he would get measured in some capacity and then follow through the interview process. Seems like he's still going to do the interview process, probably already has the past couple of days, but kind of concerning because of those question marks flying around his weight, and then he didn't really answer anything as far as that goes today.
I'm not fully surprised, but it's definitely, it kind of takes you back a little bit because you think like, okay, maybe he was going to this event to compete a little bit and really, I don't want to say put on like a show or anything, but at least do some of the minimum type of things, but just to kind of go there, to be there and get to know the teams and the personnel. I guess I get all of it, but it's kind of odd. But staying down the path, Najee Harris, 6'1", 230, 81-inch wingspan, built again like a truck. I don't know what's in the water down there,
dude. But it's not fair. It is just not fair.
And like he's purposely wearing like track shorts when he's out on the field. It's like, dude, all right, we get it. You got like thighs the size of my body. We understand. like you don't need to do that. But no, he, to me, just being there, doing everything, just really justifying and like running drills today. Like he didn't need to be out there today. And he's out there. Like, to me, that just shows great competitor and probably and should be the first running back off the board. Who else you got? Anything else, as far as any other players? There's got to be a couple more.
Yeah, East Carolina offensive tackle. He was playing left guard today, but Deontay Smith, who measured in at 6'5", 294, a little on the slimmer side, kind of looks like it, but he's more of that athletic, really good accelerator movement type of lineman. 85 and an eighth wingspan, 35 and a quarter arms, and then 10-inch hands. The guy is pretty much what you would put into a factory, or he would be the guy coming out of the factory of what you want to make in your prototypical offensive lineman. And he was a guy that I came in kind of blind to. Obviously, I knew the name, but just with maybe some limited opportunities to watch some East Carolina film. But he came in, and I know we'll get into some of the practice notes, but he came in and he looked pretty good today. But it doesn't surprise me because that's the measurements that he had this morning did carry over to the field, and I was really impressed with what I saw today.
That's interesting. I mean, I think of so many teams that will look at depth offensive linemen. I mean, he's not going to play at 294, I don't think, but, as far as the weight goes. But when you look at those type of measurables all around, if you can add 15 pounds of muscle, 10 pounds of muscle to a guy like that, I mean, in 2 years, you have a potential. And if he's playing a little bit of guard, he could be a starting guard for a team, no problem. And if everything, like you said, checked out, I mean, on the practice field today, I mean, let's go. Like I'm pumped about that. I know another guy we'll talk about, defensive lineman Dalen Hayes out of Notre Dame, 6'3", 261, 80-inch wingspan, 80 and a quarter. Possibly won maybe the day from what I've seen on Twitter so far and some of the videos. I'll get into some practice film later. But it sounded like he had a pretty good day. And I'm trying to find Rashad Weaver. That's who I'm getting to. And I do want to ask you a question about another guy, but Rashad Weaver out of Pitt, I think he's got first round potential. He's 34th on my big board, 6'4", 265. He had almost an 83-inch wingspan. The length pops off on tape, and I hope he has a great week. I'm sure you might have some notes on him. Another one as well, Peyton Turner, Zach Hicks and I, big fans of him, 6'5", 270, 84-inch wingspan. I did want to ask you, though, Marvin Wilson, did you see anything from him today? And what was your thoughts on his measurables? I have them up if you don't have them.
Yeah, I wouldn't say he was a little inconsistent, but I mean, it kind of carried over from what you saw on film, where sometimes I think he would get a little too cute. But he has the really good extension, as he has an 82-inch wingspan, 33-inch arms. So he has those measurables you want in the interior, mostly playing either a zero tech shade or nowhere further than a 3-tech at times for Florida State. But I thought he looked fine. He plays a little top heavy, and he kind of looks a little top heavy. We'll go to that far. Yeah, I mean, I was impressed with what I saw with him today. I wouldn't say impressed, because me being the truther of Marvin Wilson, I've seen all that I need to see. So he checks boxes for me today. But yeah, I think he definitely showed out of what he needed to. There's still a few more things, maybe just more consistency as far as kind of, getting his butt down, getting his pad level a little better. But he looked fine today. I don't think he really hurt or didn't really necessarily help. He just kind of stuck with the plateau of where his draft projection is right now.
Well, staying on top of the Florida State players, I'm not, you know me in names. If you listen to this show, I'm not doing it. But the safety, the dude's arms run like a country mile, dude. It just goes on forever. 6'3", 213, 80, almost 83-inch wingspan, almost, over 34-inch arms. That's incredible for a safety. And just with his athletic ability, like with the safety class not having a sure thing, and so much, like, we always talk about how the tape matters. The tape does matter, but teams fall in love with guys that just jump out at you with that size and everything else. And a safety built like that with that length, and again, the athletic ability, and his tape isn't, from the bits and pieces I've seen, not bad. So if he has a good week, he could be the very first safety off the board, and we could see him in the first round. I mean, we don't know what the Jets are thinking on the back end. Robert Saleh's there. He would love a guy like that, trying to replace a Jamal Adams in that defense. So I'm not saying the Florida State kid is him. And please, if you can say his name, go ahead. I'm not even going to butcher. We've got a good thing going today. I'm having a great day. I don't need to feel bad about myself.
Nazarildeen, does that sound good enough?
That's perfect for me, dude.
That sounds good to me, but no, I completely mirror what you're talking about. And given the 6'3", 210 pound plus frame, 82-inch arms, almost 83, 34 and a quarter arm length, and he's kind of I don't want to say your modern day type defensive back, but he's a guy, like you said, Robert Saleh, a defensive minded coach that just wants to, hey, I want this guy in my defensive room, and we're going to find a spot for him on the football field. Because especially him, he's a good cover guy. He can hit like a truck. He's decent at filling gaps when he has to come downhill and play versus the run. And I think he can match up pretty well in certain man coverage situations. So he's a guy, like I said, just get him in a jersey, get him in camp. Just let him show to the coaching staff what he's capable of. He's doing it right now. I didn't really key in on him much today because I just expected he's one of those guys that I don't say regardless of what happens this week, he's still going to be high end, but I think he's shown enough on tape for the past few seasons that he's going to be one of the top safeties, if not the top safety in the draft. But he's a kind of a modern day guy. You put him, you find a spot for him, put him in certain packages, third down, first down against the run, whatever it may be, kind of be that chess piece, that hybrid piece on the defensive side. So I completely agree with what you're talking about.
I'm just glad that you can say his name, and I agree with everything that you're saying. And it's okay if you don't watch him. That's the thing I want people to understand. There is so much going on the field, you can't see the whole thing, and that's why normally it's nice to have all of us, Eric Turner, CP, myself, and even bringing some of the other guys, and even having Zach and in years past, Brad, a part of the crew, being all over the place. So we had eyes all over the place, and we were able to do everything. I do not expect CP to have a note on every single player. It's impossible. Again, 132 players, I think, or 135 players at this event. You're not going to have everything down. But I do want to jump into one last thing as far as measurables go, and then we'll get into the rest of your notes and a bit of a preview for the rest of the week of what we expect. It's got to be the quarterback hand sizes, baby. Everybody likes it. We got to talk about it. I'm on it right now. I actually sent you a link of the list of quarterback and just everybody's hand sizes and everything. So if you check Twitter, you'll find it there. But quarterbacks today, I mean, Sam Ellinger, 9 3/4. Felipe Franks, 10-inch hands. Mac Jones, 9 3/4. Kellen Mond, 9 1/4. Jamie Newman, who we'll talk about in a second, 10-inch hands. But how about Ian Book, the shortest of the bunch and almost 10-inch hands, 9 7/8. I know some people think it matters. I don't think it really matters. But Ian Book, the guy's a competitor. The guy's a gamer. He had a couple of nice throws from what I saw earlier today. Checking some boxes. This guy going to get drafted or what?
I think he does get drafted. That was such a pitiful answer. I think he does get drafted. But I think we talked about it before, not in a starter role. So let's put a round 6 mark on him, and we'll go from there.
All right. Well, and so, we got to get into Jamie Newman, and like Mac Jones is clearly the top quarterback here. It's going to be interesting to see what he does without the weapons around him. I'm glad he checked in at 6'2". I was a little bit afraid he might be like 6 foot 6'1". But Jamie Newman, 6'2", 235. And, the hand size, everything else, he looked like he had a good day as well from what I saw. Just from some of the 7-on-7 stuff, the Pascal-y stuff that I saw, it looked like he had a good day. Did you get a chance to check out any of these quarterbacks? And really, what's your expectation for these quarterbacks for the rest of the week?
Yeah, you hit it on the head with Newman because really the whole storyline coming into this week is how would these guys that opted out that we haven't seen since maybe beginning of September or October, or may not even seen until last year's postseason or even regular season. And Jamie Newman's in that same ballpark. And one, he was playing a whole different school, comes to a different system at Georgia, never really takes a snap there. And then he declares for the draft. And now it's the first time we've seen him in really, over a year, I guess now. But yeah, it didn't seem, I don't want to say he was completely, dusted off the rust or whatever it may be, but he looked comfortable. And there was a couple times, a couple throws to the sideline where I think sailed on him a little bit, but he, the next rep, he hit it right on the money. So he looked comfortable. His mechanics looked a little better than what I saw. Of course, his mechanics kind of go all over the place when pressure comes his way. At least his Wake Forest tape showed that. But he looked okay today when just, throwing in pads and shorts, but he looked comfortable. Didn't look like anything was too overwhelming. And as far as the rest of the quarterbacks, thought Mac Jones looked fine. I didn't think he blew me away with anything. But then again, it's, we're in helmets and shorts. We're in shells today. And so there's no real pressure And with Mac Jones, it's interesting. He's throwing to wide open guys all the time in Alabama. So today was a little different for him. You're seeing these, just one-on-one matchups against really the best versus the best. And so you saw some inaccurate passes, but don't put so much stock, especially in game day one. And I'm not talking to you, Russ, talking to the listeners and anybody else that, just evaluates these guys for draft purposes. Don't put so much stock on quarterbacks missing a few wide receivers, especially day one, because as we know, it sometimes it can take a whole year to develop some kind of chemistry with your guys at wide receiver, tight end, and running back. And so you saw some inconsistencies there with maybe Mac Jones. Kellen Mond the same way, though his was more touch issues, which doesn't come as a surprise because that's kind of what he struggled with at Texas A&M. Felipe Franks looked okay, had a couple balls thrown behind his intended receivers. And so Sam Ehlinger was just kind of steady, didn't really show anything great. But quarterbacks were kind of ho-hum, but not to be too concerning as far as really any negative performances today.
Well, and that's the thing, too, with the first day of practice. It's like getting kind of, shaking off the cobwebs, getting out there and just getting some timing down. And that's the thing, like you're with a whole new group of guys. You might get lucky. You might have, your receiver from Ohio State with you or something or whatever, but sometimes that's not the case. So you mentioned development and things like that when you're talking about some other quarterbacks there. One guy speaking about development, Kyle Trask, supposed to be there, not there. What's the deal?
Yeah, it sounds like there's some kind of ankle or foot injury, some kind of lower body injury.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, so I don't know how crucial that is and how big of a deal it is, but I think he would definitely come in and really do some good things in this week. I mean, I think this week was kind of made for him and made for these guys that we just talked about. I mean, Mac Jones didn't have to be here, and let's say if Mac Jones didn't accept his invite and Kyle Trask was here, Kyle Trask would probably maybe be blowing away this quarterback group because he has kind of that talent. He has the smartness. You've seen that intellectual style of play. So you have to think that would carry over to an event like this. Yeah, I know it's just kind of disappointing, I guess. I know he can't help it that we know of, but I think he could have gained a lot from a week at the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. We'll see. I mean, I don't think he was going to be a first-round quarterback anyways, but you never know. Teams do wild things in the first round, and when you get 4 quarterbacks going in the top 10, which is going to happen, thanks to Detroit Lions, there's a chance that somebody in the back end takes him, but I doubt that happens now. And I mean, he might fall just simply because teams might not get a real good look at him. They might not get an opportunity to see what he knows, X's and O's, Y's, and that's so important. And you've got to see where the head's at, what's his headspace like. So I don't know. Do you know if he's like actually there at the Senior Bowl, like Devonta Smith, or is he just not there at all?
I didn't see him, and I didn't really see anybody talk about him. So my best guess is he didn't even make the trip. And if he did, he's not on the practice field. That's to my knowledge. Again, like you said, there's a lot of things going on, a lot of things to pay attention to, but to my knowledge and based on just looking on social media, I do not think he is here in Mobile.
Oh, boy. Well, that'll be a topic for a different day. But let's jump into the rest of your notes. I'm sure we got into quite a bit already. But who really stood out to you as a couple of guys I'm sure you have written down that had some great plays, great reps, that had just a great day in general?
Man, I love watching Tylan Wallace, the wide receiver at Oklahoma State, play football. And he was the guy that was kind of teetering on that top 5 mark. And when Chris Olave, the wide receiver at Ohio State, declared that he was going to come back and play his senior year, his last year of eligibility at Ohio State, that moved Tylan Wallace up in my top 5 of wide receivers. And he did not disappoint today. He's not the biggest guy. He's right around, he's under that 6-foot mark, but he plays physical. He's a decent route runner. He didn't get to see too much of that today, but he created enough separation. I don't think the guy dropped a pass, which I know should be expected because he's a wide receiver, but you'd be surprised. We talked about the consistency and that rapport developed with the quarterback. A lot of receivers, a lot of tight ends and backs, they do drop the football quite often in the Senior Bowl environment, but Tylan Wallace seemed very comfortable. Again, he gained that short area, or he gained that separation with that short area quickness. Just looked really, I don't want to say looked like the alpha dog, but you could definitely tell he kind of increased his gap a little bit among the guys here. And so he definitely stood out. as far as receivers go. And going to the running back position, I really like what I saw from Michael Carter, the running back out of North Carolina. He's super small. He's just under 5'8". He's 202 pounds, but he packs a punch. But the guy's really quick, and he showed a little bit of that today. And Russ, and those that have watched practice and gone to practice in years past, evaluating the running backs during the week is very difficult because you don't see too much as far as the flow of the blocking scheme. You see some of it in pass reps, blocking pass reps against the linebackers, and sometimes catching the football. But when he was on either the 7-on-7 or 11-on-11 type of situation, he, even though it's kind of more of a touch or a wrap-up type style of play, you could see that he was seeing the development of the play, and he was quickly reacting, and he has that lower body fluidity and elusiveness to react on what he sees in front of him. He definitely put that on display today. So Michael Carter, and I know you and Zach just watched Devontae Williams last year. I mean, they were a treat in that North Carolina backfield this year.
Yes. Yeah, no, and I'm happy that Michael Carter checks in there because I think every year there's a running back that goes there and has just a great week, and it's expected. Najee Harris, I mean, like we mentioned earlier, doesn't have to be there. He's there. He's competing. You love to see it. Will probably be the first running back off the board. But the top 4 conversation for running backs is Michael Carter, Javonte Williams, Travis Etienne, and Najee Harris. And I mean, I feel somewhat bad for Travis Etienne because he could have came out last year and still got drafted probably exactly where he's going to get drafted this year. And he might now be the 4th running back off the board just simply because of how all of this is shaped out to be. Now, and I like Etienne, and again, he could be the first back off the board. I doubt it. I like Harris, but Michael Carter and Javonte Williams, to me, again, it's like Sony Michel and Nick Chubb all over again. Similar play styles in a sense, and I think similar draft projection as well. And it would not surprise me if Michael Carter was an early day 2 pick or even a late first round pick, just simply for the fact, and I'm probably pushing it a little bit, but I got to. But this week is just so crucial because there's always one guy that stands out. And, for me a few years ago, it was Ito Smith. I think there was one year for some guys, it was like Darrell Williams, who's gone on to Kansas City and done well when he gets opportunities. Now you get Michael Carter in here. He's going to run a ton of wheel routes this week. I mean, he's had 82 career receptions. He's 46th on my board, so I like seeing it. And then just going back to what you said about Tylan Wallace, I'm kind of with you. Like, he plays much bigger than 5'11", 193. His wingspan was like 73 and a half. And yeah, 73 and a half. So for him to not necessarily be the biggest, strongest, fastest guy in the world, for him to still put up the numbers that he did in his career and still play the way he does, to me, it's impressive. Like, again, he's probably never going to be like a number 1 wide receiver, but you draft him to complement your number 1. So like, if you're Chicago, you want to compliment to Allen Robinson, who probably won't be back there, but you need to compliment him, you draft him. If you've got, let's say, Michael Thomas in New Orleans, you need to compliment him, Tylan Wallace. And Tylan Wallace in New Orleans, that just gets me excited. So the thought of that gets me excited. So I hope that's where he goes because that would be fun as hell to watch. But aside from that, I mean, that's some offensive guys. What about defense? You got any defensive guys that really stood out to you in any shape or form?
Yeah, one guy who I was really intrigued coming into this week was Jordan Smith, the edge player out of UAB, and kind of an unknown guy, but he has, I'm pulling up his numbers right now, but 6'6", 255, 83-inch wingspan, 33 3/8 arm length. So the guy double checks the boxes as far as measurables go. And he shows a little pop off the snap. He has that burst, that quickness, shows really good motor. And I mean, he was not necessarily making plays from the backside, but you would see him continuing, to press the play and just make sure he gets a hand or some kind of impact on the play. He wins with a lot of upper body movements. It looks like he was flirting a little bit with more like a stab or a club move. He had a little bit of an arm over move. He probably could drop his shoulders a little bit and maybe get that pad level down to really kind of corner and get that bend around the edge. But he showed a lot of upside. I watched him just a little bit this year because I just really wanted to see him in this format. But he caught my eye, maybe not necessarily from a overall performance perspective, but just from a measurable perspective and just seeing some of the physical traits that he carried today. I came away impressed, and I'm looking forward to see how he finishes off the week.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll definitely talk more during the week, so definitely keep us posted on him. I'm excited to get the rest of your notes on there, definitely throughout the week. And I mean, who are some guys for you? And I'm going to steal one. I know it's one of your guys, but I'm going to steal him because I think he's got potential to be the third or fourth best player at his position if he's not already. And that's Hunter Long. But like, who are some guys?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, who are some guys that, will stand out? Because Hunter Long, his tape, I think, is really good, really underrated. 6'5", 254. He had almost 34-inch arms today, and it shows on tape. His length is good. He's pretty fluid. Sometimes looks stiff or plays a little too high, but generally speaking, pretty fluid. I love the hand usage that he has when he's getting off of press or anything like that. So Hunter Long, like him a lot. I'm sure I stole your thunder there, but who are some guys that you're expecting big things out of this week? And maybe give me two guys from the national team, two guys from the American team.
Yeah, Quincy Roche, the edge player out of Miami, who I saw and I liked a lot of his film this year. He measured in just under 6'3", 240 pounds, 80-inch wingspan, 32-inch arms. And I really like just watching his pad level and his bend today. And sure, he's going to be kind of more of that tweener, so he's going to have to drop back in some coverage situations. But when he was going against some of the top tackles in practice, he looked really impressive. I mean, he had a nice rip-through move that I saw. Not necessarily had that motorcycle bend, but showed enough balance and bend to get to the quarterback and to really corner his matchup. And so he was a guy that really stood out to me and just the expectation for the rest of this week. And then I'm not going to say his name, but Levi, the Washington defensive tackle, the dude is he's stacked. I mean, he's just under 6'3", 290 pounds, 80-inch wingspan, 32.5-inch arms, and 10 and a quarter hands. We'll even throw that in there. But he's a guy that maybe technically wise, he's not where you would want him to be, because right now he's kind of projected to be maybe the first or second interior defensive line drafted. But he has a really good jump off the snap. He has really strong hands. Can he two gap? Can he go against multiple guys? Can he consistently read the backfield? I'm not positive, but he has the physical, those tangible traits that have probably defensive line coaches across the country really yearning to get their hands on him, because he kind of is that ball of clay. I know that's what you like to use, because he has those tangibles. He has those physical traits. And he's a guy that's just really been physically imposing, not necessarily today, but just his film over the course of his Washington career. And he's gained a lot of buzz so far this week. So those are two guys. I'll throw it in your court, and then I can finish off with a couple others.
Yeah, it's Levi Onwuzurike or something. I don't know. I can't say it. I try my best. But yeah, 6'2", 290. I'll tell you, I think he is so fun to watch, but I just don't know where the hell he plays in the NFL, because
Agreed.
He's not like incredibly versatile. Like, he doesn't play all over the place on tape. And I'll find it here in my notes in a second. Yeah, right here. So over the last 2 years, he's had 57 total pressures, and he's only played 60 snaps outside of the interior of the defensive line. So he played a little bit of edge. He played a little bit of defensive end. But and I think a team in the NFL will use him that way. They'll play him, in a 4-eye as a 5-tech. He'll move inside. He'll play a low 2-eye. He'll play all over the place. But it's just, where will he be most consistent? Because 6'2" and 290 is not exactly 6'3", 305. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, it's so tough. But I think he's going to have a good week. And you're probably right. He could very well shoot up draft boards all day long. So we'll see. But yeah, two other guys for me, and then we'll just call it a day, because I know we're going to probably talk more tomorrow about it. Monty Rice out of Georgia, 6 foot 238, just that traditional linebacker type of build. Put him in the middle of your defense and let him go hit some guys. I'm really curious to see how he has a week and what he does, how he performs, and really how he projects, because I think testing will be huge for him. He doesn't need to run like a 4.4 40, but I would love to see him run like a 4.55, a 4.6, somewhere in that range. And hopefully it all checks out for him, because I think he's pretty impressive. There's some inconsistencies as far as his general angles to the football. I think sometimes he just doesn't want to wrap up or just forgets to, maybe because he's just processing too fast. But Monty Rice, he does bring it. I like that he can smoke some guys. I don't know what Charles Snowden is. I can't figure him the hell out. 6'6", 232. Like, are you a small forward in the NBA right now, or are you like, what are we doing? Because 232, I don't know, man. Like that's Cameron Brown all over again right there with the long arms and just length and a bit undersized. And then the last one that I really can't wait to just see more on. And actually I got two. Thomas Graham out of Oregon, 5'10", 193. Didn't play this year. I think his tape is actually pretty decent. Like I'm curious how he overall, like how he performs against some of the receivers, against Kadarius Toney, some of those guys. And then the last one would be Richie Grant out of Central Florida, 5'11", 200 safeties. We talked about some safeties earlier. I think Grant could very well be in the mix as like that second tier of safeties who you might take in the third round, but he could actually be really good. I've only seen a couple of like glimpses of him, just like of one game. So I need to go and check everything out. But I liked what I saw during that one game. So I'm really excited to see what he does this week. And I'm just excited for this week. I wish I was down there. I wish we were going to Veets in an hour, and I wish we were drinking the rest of the night away. But unfortunately, that's not the case because COVID sucks. But you got anything else for me?
Man, drinks in an hour at 7 o'clock. We're going to be there all night. But
that's what we always do.
That's true. Yeah. Why did I sound surprised? But unfortunately for Snowden and Rice, they were both held out of practice today. They weren't even dressed out. Snowden had a boot on his foot, and then Rice, I'm not sure, but he was just in his jersey and gym shorts. So maybe Rice's isn't as crucial, as critical as Snowden. But with Snowden being in a boot, to me, I know it's, just the beginning of the week. It's only Tuesday, but I don't expect to maybe really even see any of him. He may go home early too, just dealing with that injury. But as for the rest of the guys, I'm still looking forward to seeing, like I said, especially just one person, you only have two eyes, so you can only watch so much. So definitely looking to kind of maybe not really touch on the guys that we talked about today and kind of turn our attention to maybe more of those cornerbacks and secondary, and maybe we'll get more reps and as far as 11-on-11 goes. So still just one day in the book, but a couple more to go.
Yeah, I'm excited. You guys, of course, can stay up to date with everything during the week, during the 9 to 5 hours of CP being down there on the practice field in the stadium in Mobile, Alabama at the Senior Bowl. Find him on Twitter @_Christian Page. Incredibly underfollowed. It's just I don't get it. It's a crime in most states. And of course, you can find me @Russ NFL Draft. You guys know what to do. Find us on Spreaker, Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube, wherever you get your podcast, whatever platform that is. Be sure to search Cover One Draft Podcast, subscribe to it, rate it, review it, and love it. And we appreciate you guys. So, CP, I will talk to you probably a little bit later, just via text or whatever, and we'll talk a little bit more tomorrow on some players, and we'll just keep doing it all week long until we get to game day on Saturday. You enjoy the rest of your night. You guys as well. Until tomorrow, this is Cover One, the Draft Podcast.